Welcome to MMA Fancast. My name's Luke Payson, and I'm excited to be joined by first-time guest on MMA Fancast, Tim, better known as Timbo Slice, VonBiedenfeld. Thank you so much for joining the show. Let's jump in with your fun nickname, Timbo Slice, obviously an homage to Kimbo Slice. What made you pick that nickname? I think it's a great one. And did you watch a lot of Kimbo back in the day? And how much fun do you have with Timbo Slice as your name?
So I actually used to watch all those backyard fights growing up, like on YouTube, being class, not paying attention to the teachers, just watching these on YouTube. But I earned that nickname from a fight that happened outside of one of my houses. Um, I was fighting this dude that was like 300 pounds, and I was whooping his tail pretty bad. And so afterwards, like Timbo Slice, more like. So it kind of stuck ever since then. And I remember back in I rewatched the fight, and the commentation was like one of the banes of Timbo Slice was his wrestling, and I took that kind of to heart. So, but I've always been a fan of Kimbo and his work and all those backyard fights out and down south.
That is super cool. Your last name is a good one, VonBiedenfeld. If I got that right, I think it is fun. It's a fun last name to pronounce. You mentioned that you've already had your amateur MMA debut for 247 back in December, their close of the year show. What was that experience like? First, let's back up. What was it like training for it? What got you into training? You mentioned street fights. There's a big difference between street fighting, which obviously you have some skill and talent for, even though it's not always the greatest idea, and actually training, for MMA. So what led you into training for MMA, and then what was the buildup like for your debut?
So one of my training partners and coaches that I train with at my gym now, he's been doing jujitsu for a very long time, and he kind of he wanted to get some of his friends involved and get them training in actual like martial arts. I used to do taekwondo,
Oh,
and he wanted to kind of just get us all together, kind of share our little bit of knowledge that we have, and then he started talking about how he was going to this gym here in Three Rivers, and he's like, "Come out, try it out, see if you like it." So I started training with them, and I just kind of wanted to test myself and see how much fun it could be to actually do it with some fans watching, a little bit of legality to it, and a lot more rewards for winning than street fighting. And so started showing up with him and training with him, and actually working out, training cardio technique and stuff like that. And I started seeing like improvements, and I felt really good about it. So I said, you know what? Before the end of the year, I want to get on a card. I want to fight.
so
And
that
that's what
brought
led.
you up to fighting for 247. Walk us
Yeah.
walk us through that fight. Your debut fight is always going to be your official sanctioned debut fight is always going to be your first official sanctioned MMA fight. So kind of walk us through that. You went all 3 rounds. What was the learning process, and what was kind of the excitement and fun part as well? Because it was a mixed bag. It was bittersweet for your debut.
Right. Definitely wish I could have got a different outcome, but all respect to Colton. He's a dog. That first round, like he was he was putting the paws on me. So that was a learning experience in itself, being able to just kind of weather the storm, be calm under pressure, and just not give up on myself. And then from that experience, learning what I was weak in, learning what I wanted to improve and make kind of more of my forte than a weakness. And so like training at this jujitsu gym with all these guys grappling and stuff like that, it was at first it was my weakness, wrestling and grappling, and now I've been training every day, and I'm feeling like the techniques are becoming more second nature, and definitely having more time to prepare for a fight is always like favorable, and it feels really good to be out there in front of fans, hear them cheering for you or booing for you, whatever it may be, just to get them on their feet and excited to be there is awesome.
Well, and
And
I think it's great that you're able to look at your debut fight. You ended up losing by decision, but that's an important thing to point out that your first official fight, you went all 6 minutes. It sounds like you weathered the first round and then ended up being a decision. But to get to a decision, which isn't anyone's like dream to get their decision and lose, but it's still better than getting finished, 20 seconds into your first official MMA fight. It could always be worse. But what do you think? You mentioned training jiu-jitsu. Is that the thing, the grappling part that you had to like kind of take, that you had to learn the most, or what did you take away that you need to improve or work on the most?
Definitely wanted to improve on defense. Definitely wanted to improve on changing my positions, not just being stuck somewhere and not knowing what to do. And so, one of my buddies that I was training with and working out before, like he was helping me with takedown defense and stuff like that. And unfortunately, first fight jitters got to me, and a lot of those went out the window. But definitely grinding those techniques, grinding those positions, and just staying like believing in myself in those positions too. Definitely, I've been grappling with a lot of guys that are been training for many years. They're pretty good. It makes me feel good whenever I'm able to reverse a position or get something on them, and they're really encouraging to me as well.
Well, what are some of their names as far as your training partners go? Because it sounds like that's a great fit for you there at Three Rivers Brazilian Jiu Jitsu.
Oh yeah. So first buddy that actually the one that gave me a little bit of first rookie advice and was telling me like, hey, be careful of this, make sure you're thinking about this, think about this. My buddy Mikey Strong, um, and my buddy Denny Bingaman. They were Denny is the one that's out of the jujitsu gym and who got us all together. We were all training in his basement, boxing, kickboxing, wrestling. Had like six of us in his room and in the basement, and we just had fun smacking the hell out of the Bob. But now he's got belts, he's got tournaments, he's you know doing his thing, and he's like, you know what? If you want to be serious about this, I'll train you with what I know. You can come train with my coach, Coach Reese,
Mhm.
here at Three Rivers. He's a freaking awesome coach. He's always talking me through stuff whenever he can see. Whenever we're training together, he's always like, hey, now what you're doing wrong is this. Now what you want to do is this.
Mm.
And like I said, just seeing the improvement from these guys, like helping me out and like being encouraging, it's really putting a lot more confidence in me. And like I really feel better about, like I wouldn't say I feel better. I just feel like it's going to be a lot more fun in this second fight.
Well, and that's what you want, and I think it's great that you've continued and your love, and here you are smiling and excited about the fight. And I think that's what really makes the difference. When no matter what the outcome of your first fight was, to want to train more. How many months were you training at the gym officially before the December fight?
Well, actually, really and truly balls to the wall training and actually grinding, probably about a month. Not gonna lie. I was
Sure.
maybe working out in the gym, going here and there to jujitsu. There were a couple times where I had offers and I would start getting excited for it, but then offers would disappear. And I kind of got like a little discouraged that I wouldn't be able to get my fight at the end of the year. So it started messing with me a little bit mentally. But then Hunter messaged me and was like, hey, got a guy if you want him. Pittsburgh messaged me. They're like, hey, what about this? And I'm like, yes, run it. Absolutely. And then they ran it past him. He said yes because he was also Colton was also he had a fighter drop out on him, and so he didn't think he was going to have a fight either. And so we both kind of got this like maybe like a month before the fights. We both like officially got our contracts and stuff like that. And after that, it was just like I got to show up, I got to be there. And at the time, we really didn't have a full week schedule. We were kind of like it's a fairly new gym,
Sure.
but these guys have all been training like down in Indiana in Elkhart at their other gym and up in Kalamazoo, and so like these guys are all really high level grapplers. They've been doing it for many years, but this is now all their new academy that they're doing together. And I gotta say, like, from we just started our new full week schedules, and it is
Wow.
it is awesome to have all the guys in there every day. We're like I said, I feel the improvement just being there with them. So yeah, it was probably about a month's worth of like real technique and actual training that like
Well,
we
then
did before.
that's in some ways, that's not a lot of training, but in some ways that's exciting that you're able to kind of jump into it, get your first fight under a belt, and now you'll be able to see so much more improvement because you did go through your fight. There's that old expression, you don't know what you don't know. So you got through it. Now obviously training a little longer. Most people like a 2 or 3 month training camp, but I also think it's good mentally that you were like, I'm gonna fight. Now, a big difference besides the legality of street fighting, which is the biggest one, is having to be on weight. What was it like getting on weight? And was that the first time you had to be at a certain weight? Because I know you mentioned Taekwondo, but was that by weight class, or is this your first time back in December having to hit a certain weight?
So with Taekwondo, it was more like belts. They try to keep like certain belt levels together so that you don't have guys that are more experienced at certain techniques that like say like white belts maybe don't know how to do a tornado kick, 360 spin kick, something like that, but you got um so like with MMA, you get guys at the same size, same weight class. You put them in there together and just be like, all right, so you've got your techniques and what you know, and he's got his techniques and what he knows. Let's see you guys go at it. And that's what makes it even more fun. And so, like being on weight and actually having somebody like my size, it was kind of exciting to be like, oh yeah, I'm not as much at a disadvantage because I'm pretty skinny.
That is cool. And it also, as you described it there, Timbo, it also goes back to what led original MMA to be existing, that it's going to be kind of the best of whatever works. And obviously, we've seen waves in UFC. Some really good striking will take you a long way. Some really good wrestling will take you a long way. Some really good jiu-jitsu will take you a long way. And then obviously, what we've seen a lot more recently is a good mix of all of those will take you an even longer way. Damian Maya, kind of the prototypical, just kind of pure jiu-jitsu guy, made it to kind of very high level in UFC, but never got gold despite some attempts, but obviously showed that jiu-jitsu, obviously the Gracies. And then we see some really great strikers that make it a very far way, but then they struggle in wrestling. So it's really cool that you're working to kind of mix everything together. In Taekwondo, a lot of the strikes are very, like you mentioned, tornado kick, 360 kick. They're very kind of flashy, exciting. Um, what 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 is something from Taekwondo that you would like, sort of in a dream case scenario, be able to land in MMA?
Well, I can't do it yet because I don't have enough
Oh,
amateur fights, but I
yes.
would sure love to just land a nice roundhouse. That just a simple roundhouse would be perfect for me. Like maybe throw a tornado kick if I feel like I've got enough time, if I feel like I've already done enough on the cards that I can safely do it. And guys are really good at wrestling these days. They're really good at being able to counter those kind of flashy spin open moves. And so like I personally I like them. I think they're great, but I'd more like to just land something quick and simple, put the power where it needs to be. And so yeah, nice roundhouse. Maybe maybe throw a little up kick, kind of like a Anderson Silva up kick, just knock them out. That'd be great.
Well, in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, you can't do that till you're a pro. So that's a few down the road. You did mention advanced amateur. You have to win 2 more fights. Well, this fight, another fight, you have to be 2-1 or better to be advanced amateur. Um, and that still doesn't allow you to kick to the head. It does allow ground and pound with punches on the ground. And you don't wear shin pads. So for a lot of people, they watch advanced amateur and it looks like pro because people aren't wearing shin pads. But there are still some restrictions, but still very exciting. It's also, I can tell you're a very intelligent fighter, trying to put it all together because you mentioned some of the strengths of Taekwondo, but also sort of straight, like you mentioned, a simple roundhouse, mentioned a straight push kick or an Anderson Silva kick, things that land quickly that can't be as telegraphed as some of the other stuff. And obviously, that's one of the things MMA is doing. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson came in with a lot of, I mean, he landed a question mark kick and knocked the guy out. He's done all types of Cool stuff. And so certainly some of the more flashy techniques can work at the high level, but then there's also fights where that's just not going to work. So it's always sort of like a balance. It's very exciting to have you on. Um, for you, you're now going to be fighting a debut fighter for the April 15th Brandenburg 16, 247 Brandenburg 16 at the Meadows Casino, Hollywood Casino at the Meadows in Canonsburg. Very exciting. Your first fight was up at the Monroeville Convention Center, which is still exciting. It's a much bigger venue. The environment, you mentioned liking the crowd. You're going to love the crowd. You're going to love the feel of the crowd. Hopefully they're cheering you. They might be booing you. Who knows? But regardless, it is a whole different feel at the casino, and I think that's what makes people kind of even more excited to be there. So, what do you think about your opponent? He's a debuter. Does that kind of just give you sort of a blank slate? You don't really know much about him, and you can just go in there and focus on you. Or what are your thoughts specifically about this fight, April 15th?
Definitely, I'm taken away from my last fight. I know no two fighters are the same, but I'm trying to more focus on what I was weak on and improve them, improve those weaknesses and make them more of towards my strengths. So with him being a debut and me not having any real answers on like how he fights, where he trains and stuff like that, like I mean I know where he trains, but like I don't have all the answers that some fighters would have on other guys. That just kind of gives me the idea of that anything could happen. Just be prepared for anything. Work to takedowns, work to take down defense, work being on your back, work being on top, work standing, work sitting, anywhere. Just try to be like as well rounded as I can be, because MMA is one of those sports where it can change in an instant. You could be winning the fight, and one good overhand right, one mistake on the ground, and it's all over. You just lost. So I've been trying to just work on me and make sure that I'm as best as I can be.
And that's a fantastic attitude and training plan. You know, down the road, as you advance, you might be looking at fighters where you end up having a lot more tape on them and you end up kind of knowing a lot more about them. But I also still think there's always that balance between working to make yourself better no matter where it goes, or just planning for the person. That's why at the higher levels in UFC, typically it's kind of a joke, but it's true that when two really great grapplers face each other, they typically end up kickboxing or striking because they kind of cancel each other out. So even if they had a game plan, sometimes that's the beauty of MMA. Game plans change as it's happening because of the strengths and weaknesses of your opponent. So that is certainly very exciting. What would it mean to you? You know, you learned from your first fight, very humbly knew that it's a good opportunity. You know, you win or learn, and in your case, you learned and you continued on. What would it mean to you to get a win here in your second official amateur MMA fight with the crowd going crazy? Like what are you visualizing as far as what a fight would mean for you?
It would mean the world to get a win in MMA and a sanctioned fight in a cage, for everybody to see that, to put my name out there, to be able to say like I've got a win, even though I got a loss, I've got a win. It means I can be successful. It just puts a little bit more motivation in my heart to be able to keep training. And even if I did lose, still keep training. That would tell me like, all right, so here's another learning experience. Keep training. And all of this is like super motivating just to even go out there. And I've all my guys at the gym, they're like super motivated by me. They all want to go do tournaments and they want to go compete. And like just to be able to go out there and win with their names on my back, with all my friends and family here in Michigan cheering for me, whether they're there in Pittsburgh or they're here in Michigan paying for it. However, you know, those people are the ones I want to get the wins for. I want to make sure that they can see like I mean business, and I want y'all to be excited to come out and see me. Have something like exciting to be like, oh, this Saturday, here it comes, Tim's fight. You know, I want them to be excited for that. I want to hear
That is
Timbo Slice on a big screen.
Oh, that is a great mindset attitude to have. Of course, you brought up that you're coming in from Michigan, which I think is great. Hats off not only to you making the trip in, but to Jim Mooney, the matchmaker, and you already mentioned Hunter, the GM. they really will open up the doors to bring fighters in, as you yourself know. So that's always exciting. But you mentioned sort of in your gym, you're kind of the fighter right now that's sort of taking the fights and motivating other people to get into it, which is really exciting. That tends to happen, particularly at a newer gym where you start taking competitions, then somebody else wants to do that. It kind of becomes a snowball in the best possible way. So for you, most people will be on pay-per-view or on streaming for this fight. So that's kind of exciting. Are they going to kind of get together and all watch it, like you said, on the big screen, like all together, or will there be different pockets of your supporters checking it out fight night?
I'm not sure yet. I'm sure that as we get closer to the fight, people will start conversing with each other and making plans and whatnot. And just to clarify, they are already competing in tournaments. We
Ah,
actually got a Naga tournament coming up this weekend. A few of my guys are going out to Detroit, do jiu-jitsu tournaments, and they go out to Chicago, do tournaments. So they motivate me just as much as I
oh,
motivate them.
great. That
Yep.
is
But
that is great. I mean, obviously, I appreciate you correcting me because you're right. It's very much both people are motivating each other. You're motivating them. They're motivating you. Have you done a Naga tournament, or have you gone to a Naga tournament to kind of just focus in on the grappling?
I have not, but I've watched all the videos that my buddy Denny has posted of his
Oh,
tournaments experiments, his cousins tournaments experience, and I try to like stay watching their videos. Like there's a lot of in between rounds time where maybe it's just the camera focusing on them standing on the side of the mat, but even then I'm watching them, I'm watching their mindsets when they're getting ready for their next rounds. And
sure.
then to see the after effect of them on the podium with a medal, like it's always like really good to see that. And even in some cases, maybe they don't get the gold, just to see how they handle that afterwards and just be humble, but at the same time still be like, it's all good. My opponent was better today. Next time, I'll get them in the heel hook or the rear naked choke, whatever it may be.
Sure. And some of the tournaments, some of the jiu-jitsu tournaments, which I think make it kind of a more learning experience, have a two loss policy where you have to. So the tournament's going on. Depends. Some tournaments do it one loss and you're out. But I tended to encourage people to go to the tournaments where you have to lose at least twice to go out, because then you end up kind of getting more experience no matter what happens. Which is kind of like we were talking about. There's things to learn no matter what the outcome is. You're a super exciting guy. You obviously put on a very entertaining first fight in your debut. I can tell that this means a lot. You're bringing a lot of excitement. You're going to bring eyeballs on the video from Michigan, which is always super exciting. I'm honored to have had you on MMA Fancast for the first time of hopefully many. So I appreciate you coming on. You've been listening to Luke Mason from MMA Fancast with first time guest of the show, Timbo Slice. Thanks so much for coming on, Tim.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be on.
It's an honor. Best skills to you. Can't wait to see you live in action for Brawl in the Berg, April 15th for 247 Fighting Championships in Cannonsburg, the Meadows Casino, the Hollywood Casino at the Meadows. Thanks so much for coming on. Can't wait to see you live in action.
Thank you very much. Glad to be on.
You take care.
I'll see you guys April 15th.
Can't wait. See you, bud. All right. Bye-bye.